Hello, everybody. It is a beautiful day. Minecraft 1.12 has just recently been released, and I have a fancy new door to show you. It is completely silent, no redstone, no moving parts, and you can make it completely flush. I know it sounds a little too good to be true, but it isn't. Despite the slightly misleading title, this isn't new to Minecraft 1.12. It's been around in the game for a while. I've seen people get close to it before. Very simple. I've just got our red sand here showing which blocks we can walk through, and our regular for the rest. This was already figured that out recently in 1.11, and it's the exact same thing now in 1.12. You can see I got a little bit lazy there, and with the boat there, and it's poking through the corner. Don't get lazy. Place those boats right. Do as I say, not as I do. So these are all our old blocks that we could use. Now in Minecraft 1.12, we can use all these falling sand entity blocks, so you can get a little bit more texture in your fancy doors. Now, I want to take you right back to the basics of falling sand and boats. If you want to skip the basics and see the technicals of this implementation, how we do it, how it interacts with mobs, there should be a little skip button there for you. If you want to skip straight ahead to building it, how to build it, there's another button for you. But I think that everyone is going to pick up something, even as I go through the basics here, so bear with me. The first point that I want to make is that when we're talking about sand, we're talking about two different things. The falling sand entity and the full sand block. The falling sand entity we can just walk straight through. That's how we've got it over there, but obviously the block is solid. So we can place sand on blocks. We know that. But it's when we remove the block underneath that the sand converts to an entity. It'll fall, it'll hit the ground and convert back to a block. So from this we know that we've got to have no full blocks underneath in any part of our build there. That's 8 blocks that we've got to have completely empty. Now, sand entities interact with all blocks the same way that the player would. So it's going to fall straight through string, torches, banners, anything like that. The sand entity will hit the ground, it'll try to convert back into a block, and it'll realize that there's already a block in that spot, and then the entity will just break off into an item. You've all seen this before for mining big chunks of sand. But another important point that we can get from this demonstration is that sand entities aren't pushed horizontally by other entities. So that's how we can walk through the door without pushing all of our entities out of place, and that's also how we can get our boats into position without pushing all of the sand out of place. There is a slight deviation, slight note to make. Anvils will sometimes, depending on the block that it falls into, see it just replace that string there. So it's a little bit different behavior for anvils, but mostly the same. Okay, so if we're not positioning our falling sand entities using blocks, we've got to do it using entities. Now I said it doesn't interact with the horizontal hitboxes. It doesn't get any horizontal momentum, but there's one entity in the game that it will interact with vertically, and we can also see, I'll just turn on hitboxes here, F3 and B. Boats will also, can you see it there? Alright, so all the entities will land on top of boats and interact with them there. And you might think, well, minecarts are very similar, and that we could potentially position our sand on top of minecarts, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going on with minecarts, but they're a little bit different. They're a little bit different. Okay, so it works out that if we place a Soulsand, 2 boats on top of it, we get exactly, if I press F3 here, it works out to exactly the same height as a regular block. So we can place our sand on top there, it will convert to an entity, and now you can just walk straight through it. Now we can see with our hitboxes the boat is sticking out to the side slightly, and that's actually enough to catch our sand there and convert it to an entity. We can see this white line around the sand block now because it's become an entity. And we'll also have this facing direction. For some reason, falling sand faces south. Just don't know why that is, but it is. We saw that it'll fall through string. We can also place string right there inside of our falling sand entity, and then we can place another sand block on top. You'll notice from the cursor in the F3 and whatever, it's a solid block. Ooh. Okay, I pushed the boat out from underneath it there. That's what happened. There. Another little thing to note, even if it's an entity, it doesn't have to touch the block underneath it. We can put string there, and it's converted to a block. Destroy it, entity, block, entity, yada yada. So it doesn't actually have to hit the block beneath it. It just has to have a vertical velocity equal to 0. So now you can drop sand onto string and it won't break. Congratulations. Now, how do we position our boats to get it all nice and clean? There's a couple of different ways to position boats. This is the tightest way you can get it, just using regular fences. We can also kind of offset it using cobble walls. Now if we push a block into a boat, the boat will actually just it'll just phase right through the block. It's just going to drift straight through it. There's nothing actually keeping it stuck there. But if we use a stair instead, now stairs have 2, maybe 3 hitboxes. Like even as we walk up them, you notice that. And so the boat's actually inside of the first step. It'll drift around in the first step, but it'll collide with the second step and it won't go any further. So this is the tightest that we can get it, having it clean. And then finally a little trick to placing our boats. If we aim at the top pixel or so on the on a block which has an air block above it, we can just place them there and they'll fall through, and we'll use that to get our boats into place. Okay, so that's it for the basics, and now I need a break. Okay guys, so you've already basically seen the mechanics behind getting these boats in place. Now, once we get them in place, we got to keep them in place. The boat down the bottom here, that's not going anywhere. It's fenced in from all sides, but these boats on the side have enough room to come out, fall down, and break everything. Now they will drift slightly from side to side, just one thing to note, and the angles that I've picked to place these boats so that there is the minimal amount poking through. There's like a pixel or 2, I don't even know if you'll be able to see it on the video, that'll come through the front there. So keeping these top boats in place and keeping mobs out. How do we do it? The easiest, simple part, dig too deep down here. I should probably put a slab down there to stop spawning. And that'll stop any mobs from tracking you through the door this way. So if that's the inside of your base, you're done. You just get the boats into place like this, make sure the inside of your base is all lit up and nice, and you can have everything pretty much clean. If, however, there is the potential for mobs to spawn on this side, you'll have to make sure that no mobs can get... they will see this stair block and they'll try and stand on top of it. So you've got to make sure that they won't get that far. The simplest, most reliable way to do that is to place 2 fence blocks here. And instead of having out 2 by 2 by 2 floating sand entities, it's just going to be these front 4. Now these boats won't go anywhere like that. That is the stablest. You can't get them out of there, steer them out of there even if you tried. Even if mobs get pushed into there, they can't break that. So that's ideally what you want to go for, but I totally get that the aesthetics won't be entirely pleasing from this backside. So, other alternatives that we can do to stop mobs from tracking us. We've got a few simple ones. We can have another drop and carpet on top. They also won't follow you over rails. We can set those blocks back one. A recent one that I just found, mobs don't like traveling over that, over the end nether torch thing. But they will try to travel through it when it's on that same level there. So it's an odd block that I just haven't seen anyone talk about before. So yeah, keep it lit on this side, keep it lit. Or like so, or yeah, you get the idea. So that is mob proofing. Now this door does have some weaknesses. It can be detected, it can be broken fairly easily. The biggest weakness is arrows. I'm not sure if you can see the little corner of the boat poking out, but if you manage to shoot an arrow directly into it, you can break it and collapse all the sand, and you can have a fun time fixing that, I'm sure. But the cool thing about it is that falling sand actually deflects arrows. So your boats are mostly protected. There's just a tiny chance that some will hit right in the corner and the arrow will go through the block and break your boat and everything. But even as you walk through the sand entities, you can try swinging here, and you can't actually break anything while your head is in the sand entities. You will notice what I'm intentionally avoiding is the string here on this layer. That can be broken if you click it. I'll just do it on this one because it's cleaner to fix up. Can be broken. Your top layer will fall down, but you can replace that by putting your string on the side, and so that's not a big deal if your sand blocks are the same color, but it'll start doing some funky business if you have different colored blocks, or just have solid blocks there and don't have any string, which is probably nicer. You'll also notice that there's no hitbox between a regular block, and there's no hitbox on the normal sand entity. Okay, so there's another very obvious way to detect it, and that is by pressing F3 and B. And it's not so bad on this one. You can see a few boats facing outside, but on this one over here, since this is facing south, we have all of our sand entity lines coming off. Maybe it's a kind of cool way you could remember where your secret base was. See the sand facing direction thing. Yeah. Another big weakness, it can be broken by explosions well, I mean, a lot of things can be broken by explosions, but yeah. I don't think anything can spawn inside of it, especially if you do make sure you place slabs at the bottom of the hole. That's about it. And of course, I built this one to show the difference in the way that the game handles shading between entities and blocks. You'll be able to see block has a gradient, the entity just gets a brick coloring, so that can make it stand out a bit. Also, on the back side, it always seems to be this corner, no matter what orientation I build it in. And that shading goes away when you destroy that block, but I don't know why. If anyone knows why, I would like to know why. Okay, there's about one more thing, and that is our anvil doors here. You can double up on them, which I kind of like, to have that extra textured column effect. Yeah, it works like normal, except you can see the bottom down there. You could go crazy, maybe have armor stands wearing helmets and position them just right so that you couldn't. Yeah, no, I'm not even going to try with that. Okay, so that's about all of the technical know-how on this, and we'll jump into building. Okay guys, on to the last leg, actually building this thing. So, you know where you want to put your door, and this is going to be the outside of our base, and the inside, which is nice and well lit up. These are all the materials you're going to need. Obviously your choice of building blocks. I'm going to be using yellow for the blocks which you can actually fall through, and orange for the blocks that are solid. Pistons and buttons to get things into place. A couple of things that you could use to mob proof it from the inside as well. First thing we're going to do, dig down here. This is going to be where our first boat goes. Our second one, like so. Just down here to stop mobs following you through. Alright, now we're going to place all of our pistons first. We're going to want blocks there. Alright, our solid blocks, fence posts on either side here. I'll keep it in line when you push. It'll keep the top boat in line. You might see what I'm talking about. But they're kind of hidden away. Those fence post hitboxes sort of protrude up through it. Now we're going to be placing boats everywhere. I'm placing grass blocks at the moment, but we got to do it in a special way. Get our angle just right. If we hit F3 and look at our facing, we want to go to sideways with our door, and then 8.5 degrees to the left, which gets me to 81.5. Aim the top corner of that one. Same thing on this side, 8.5 degrees to the side. It doesn't have to be exactly there, but that's just what I found works best. We can walk in our boats once we've placed them. Come on. Okay, there we go. It's all our boats in place. Alright. Just gonna push the front in. We can get rid of these now. And we're going to be placing string on the inside of either step. It'll place it inside there so that we can actually place, this will be a solid sand now instead of a falling block. Actually, now that I'm doing this, this one's currently falling because there's no block underneath it, but we'll push in from the side in 2 seconds. Yeah. Knock that off. Here. Block that off. Okay, now we can place our second row, and this part's kind of optional as well. If you want to place sand on the top, you can place string here, and then our sand will sit on top of the string like that. And that is our finished door. Okay, I'll just switch F3 off. I always forget about that. So at the moment, I don't think any mobs, except for spiders and cave spiders, will try and track us through the door. They'll all get to here and stop because they don't want to fall down that gap. So if a cave spider, well, spiders I think will just waltz through, and cave spiders should always get stuck. Not 100% on that. You'll see that the sand might be, I'm not sure if you'll be able to see it on your screen, the sand's jumping up and down a little bit. If we relog, that'll clear right up. If you do somehow get mobs stuck in your door, I think potions of damage, potions of harming would be the best way to go. Now in terms of actually mob proofing it from this side out, if you've got any mobs on this side, easiest way, rails, they'll stop everything besides spiders, or if we just use the carpet trick, same thing, everything but spiders, except you can work in the aesthetic a little bit more. Or the final way, which should completely get all the boats in place, so that you can't push them out even if you try. If we put more stairs here, oh sorry, you can't push the boats out as it is now, but if you jump inside of the boats, you can push them out. So this does require us to destroy the back wall of our build. If you get inside the boats there now by accident, try not to wiggle around or else the boats will come loose. Now that is our final build. It's as stable as you can get, as clean as you can get, that I know of. If anyone has any solutions for spiders, how to stop them getting through, I would love to know. Okay, now if you guys have been very astute, you might have noticed that there is one type of falling entity that I've skipped over entirely. And this is the funkiest kind of door, honestly. It's the opposite of discreet. It's flashing, it's loud, it's going to be attracting a lot of attention. Alrighty. Thanks for sticking with me, guys. I've got more weird tutorials on the way for sand boats, how to make these things as wide as you want, how to make quicksand. You could probably figure that out from the episode so far, but thank you for watching. Bye bye. We're actually picking up right where we left off from the last video, and I'm going to show you how to turn a sand entity door into a plane wall, and then back again.